Do you have a battery indicator on it anywhere?
And you certainly
I don't
keep
know.
minutes that way, but you're not required to keep verbatim minutes. Just so you know,
Oh, you got 2 bars. You should be okay.
Discussion of the topic and the actions and the votes are taken, but you're not required to
Just
keep
record it.
It's got a light on.
Yeah, that helps. It just gives you, you know,
Yeah.
you can question of it all.
Well, let's open up the first meeting of the Wakulla County Public Records Committee. The first order of business would be to accept nominations for the chair. Yes.
I would like to nominate Rachel.
I'll second that.
Second. We have a
That's
motion and a
because
second.
I came late, right?
Do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I accept the nomination.
Motion and acceptance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we have a chair. I will then turn the meeting over to you. I would recommend that you elect a vice chair and a secretary, and then I'd like a few minutes just to give a sunshine briefing.
Okay, great.
And then I'll be heading out.
Okay. So we need nominations for a vice chair. Do I have a motion?
I nominate Bob Danzy.
Yeah, I don't want to be secretary, so I'll do whatever.
I was actually hoping I could nominate Hugh for secretary. I think he has.
Yeah, I think he's got the.
Yeah, I'll be secretary. I'm fine with it. I don't expect me to remember every time to bring.
I'll second the motion.
We could probably move to accept the nominations as a slate and accept them both. I think we'd be okay with Robert's rule to do it that way. So I can have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept Bob Danzy as the vice chair and Hugh Taylor as our secretary.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All like it was unanimous. We're good. Yay, we have a board.
That was easy.
Wait, awesome.
All right, so you all have a copy of Resolution 1143, which is the resolution establishing the committee. It gives you your charge, the committee members. It does, if you look down in paragraph 6, you will need to establish rules of procedure. That can be Robert's rules. It can be Robert's rules as modified by the commission's meeting rules, which is policy 0701 if you wanted to do those. It can be something other than Robert's rules. There's other standard rules of procedure, and I'll leave that up to you all. I wanted to just briefly give you guys some background on not public records law, because that's what you're here to discuss. I will touch on that briefly, but basically the sunshine law and meetings. Since you are a committee, now anything that may foreseeably come before this committee can only be discussed in a notice public meeting where minutes are taken. That means don't email each other about things that may come back here. Don't have your wife talk to Hugh's wife about something that may come back here, and use a conduit. Basically, yes, it's common sense, but I get asked those questions all the time,
Right.
so I feel compelled.
I'm the only one not married. No conduit.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, reasonable notice of meetings. Mm-hmm. What are we?
Jessica has volunteered to, if you guys get a schedule of meetings to her where you're going to meet, what times and dates, to get those out. She generally likes them 2 weeks to 1 week before. As far as reasonable notice, there isn't a state standard for anything besides a public hearing that goes for the board where there is a state standard. There isn't anything specific about, 5 days is reasonable, 2 days is not. But generally, I like to see notices go out 5 days to a week ahead of time at a minimum, so that
It's kind of a 10-day person.
Well, 10 days is the rule for public hearings, and that is considered the gold standard for, they want more notice for public hearings. For just general meetings, you don't generally need that much. But there's nothing to say that if you have it, and you guys may even decide today to set, a set calendar. We're going to meet every other Tuesday at blank time, and then at that point, you can give them all notice at once.
Do we have any kind of mandate for a time frame for getting this recommendation done?
Yeah, if you look at paragraph 2, it talks about a report within 4 months.
4 months, okay. So that's 4 months from the November date?
Yes. And now this can always be amended if it looks like it's going to be, you guys did lose a month in getting together, so you've got 3 months now.
Oh, yeah. So it's when it,
If we need to, because it's from the effective date of the resolution, but, you know, I'm sure the board would be more than willing to give you leeway. So I wouldn't be worried about that.
I assume this is, if we advertise this public, so
That's correct.
will we always meet here, or are we going to meet over there? Or, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to come and sit in.
I mean, unless you expect to have a crowd where you would not be able to provide reasonable access to this room, I think you'd be fine to meet here. If you do expect to have a lot of people present, and so you notice you're meeting here and there's too many people, you really need to cancel the meeting or continue it in a bigger venue because you do then have a potential sunshine and dew pocket problem.
Can we continue that day and just move?
Like walk across the street?
Yeah.
Okay, that was kind of what I
Put a note on the door and tell them where we are.
No problem with that?
To continue the meeting?
Somewhere else.
Well, you would notify, you can continue it, but you would notify, you'd post a sign that says, if anyone who comes here, they're directed to the new
as long as
location.
they got adequate.
Yeah.
Right, they can come and see a sign and be able to access
That's
reasonably,
fine.
I would think.
If we do this right, hopefully we won't have a crowd.
Well, there's that.
Understood. Well, and I don't expect it, but I was curious about.
Do you all meet here at EDC?
I'm sorry?
IDA.
Yeah, we meet.
You meet here?
Yeah.
Do you have much of a...
It's perfect. No. Maybe a commissioner once in a while. That's
That
about
would
it.
be, my count would be...
That's about all we'll have, I would imagine.
That makes sense.
You know, any documents you create as a part of this committee are public records, so including drafts are public records, so you need to make sure that they're preserved. I would probably recommend that you, just as a habit, give them to the secretary, and then you have a public records file in case anybody requests it. Periodically, the secretary can give them to.
You mean notes that we take within this meeting?
Not your own personal notes.
Okay.
If they're just personal notes for
Okay.
purposes of your own recollection, then that is not a public record necessarily.
Okay.
But if there's any, if you guys, once you get to your policy drafting standpoint, you're exchanging drafts. You know, those are public records. Now, one thing, drafts. Let's talk about that real quickly. Once you get into drafting things, if you're emailing drafts out to each other, that's fine. But what you cannot do is comment on those drafts. Like, if Bob has a draft of something, he can email it out to you all in advance of the meeting, and you can come to that meeting and discuss it. You cannot, and you should not, email comments back to Bob
No
in
two-way
advance of the meeting.
communication.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So
So
like
that is
if I had a comment about what I've just drafted, I wouldn't put it at the bottom, Steve, da-da-da-da-da, number 4, da-da-da-da-da,
Yes.
okay.
Don't communicate back with each other.
Okay.
I would, I consider things like that, like a draft, no different than a commissioner agenda item going out.
Okay.
It's a one-way communication, but we're not taking feedback. We're not modifying things based upon that. That really needs to be conducted in these meetings.
Okay.
That's right.
That's sort of an indirect way of violating the Sunshine Law.
The golden rule is one way.
Yes, absolutely.
Stick with that, and you're fine.
And as long as it's, and you guys are free to talk about the weather and talk about your holiday plans and all of that outside of these meetings.
We see
What
each
you
other in the
cannot
restaurant, we can.
Sure.
We don't have to
What you
leave.
can't discuss is anything that may foreseeably come before this committee.
That makes sense.
So that's your...
If I wanted, I don't know a reason why, but I think I'd like to know if I can. If I wanted to ask the other 4 something, could I go through Jessica with an email and basically make it part of the record to ask?
And then I do have a concern about the fact that we're not officially staffed on this committee.
Mm-hmm.
And because with other boards and committees that I serve on that are subject to Sunshine Law, which if we're public records, we are obviously doing the business of the commission and Sunshine Law here. and it's related to exactly what we're doing, I think we're already kind of having a problem by not having a staffer as...
I can't assign you a staffer.
I know you can't. So I understand that we've got to ask the commission to do it. I've expressed that concern already, and action has not yet been taken. And I'm trying to decide, and it's something we can bring up as a committee that I want to figure out how to proceed with that, because I think it's already a problem. Because really, we should be able, instead of one of us initiating email, we should actually be sending it through the staff person, and they should be sending out the email. That's how every board item on works.
Actually, in terms of being very clear in the sunshine law, I really think that's probably how we ought to do it.
But they have.
Well, I mean, a staffer could be your conduit to Valley Sunshine Law, so that doesn't really make much of a difference. But I do see your point. I mean, it would be easy.
We have somebody
right, but we also don't have like an ex officio staff member. No, yeah, that's not.
Could we ask Jessica if we sent that email to her if she could pass it along, and we just do it through those channels?
You can't. The problem here is that when this item came before the board, it was made very clear that there would not be any staff resources.
Yeah, I think that was it. The idea was not to spend it.
Yeah.
Procedurally, in terms of sunshine, it's a problem.
So we're already violating the sunshine law.
No, you're not violating the sunshine law. You would just be limited. You wouldn't be able to have that kind of.
Here, basically.
Yeah, you'd have to meet. You'd set your meeting dates and.
But if you act like Heather says, if we act through Jessica, that would come perilously close to violating.
Yeah, you couldn't do those kind of things through Jessica.
You can't do it anyway.
No, not acting through Jessica. Using, like, you say this is something to go out to the board. You send it to Jessica. She sends it out. It cuts out the direct communication.
That's all.
So that's what I'm saying is that other boards I serve on, not just outside of this county, in Tallahassee and other places, the procedure that I have followed, it seems to be the same for all these other boards. Yet WAKULLA County, I guess, to save money, does not follow the same procedure.
Well, typically they would. I know the wetlands. I went to those meetings a lot.
Typically they would. They just did not. In this case, it was not.
I think this is one that didn't get done. So we just should probably, for now, just
Let's
try to operate in here.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's just going to take a lot. It's going to take more discipline on your own behalf. You're not going to hit reply all. You're not going to hit reply. You're going to get the communication and digest it, and then save any comments you have for a notice meeting.
That's right.
Does cut down probably a little bit on potential efficiencies, and if it's an issue, then
I'm thinking I'm not going to give you all my email because I don't want to be put in that position.
Bring it back to the board and see if they would change that direction.
That's fair.
Yeah, I just think if we're supposed to be in the business of establishing a public records policy, and then we start off in a way that is
let's see
a little off center.
Yeah.
And I know we have a couple of choices. We can see how it goes, or not communicate. Period. Until we come here. I mean, either way, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me.
For the time being, I just think we shouldn't, unless we're here.
Until the problem arises, maybe we shouldn't do anything.
The thought was, or what Heather's mentioned was drafts, and we're a long ways
from a draft. Yeah.
I agree.
So I think it would be, if we were to start at ground zero, it would be. There's a lot of other things we can address before.
And maybe we can show some positive progress to the board. They'll be more amenable to providing a staffer. If we can show work
There's
product.
an idea.
Yeah. Even if it was as something as simple as somebody like Jessica just to consolidate emails and make them available. But I don't think it's.
Is she the only one that does that sort of thing? Because I know she's got a lot to do. She doesn't want to take us on, probably, in all honesty.
I'm not sure she can right now.
Not sure she can. That's what I mean.
They are short-staffed, so that may have been part of the...
Let's take care of our own house and see how it goes.
Yeah, it's the idea that our emails are public record because of the committee work, and in terms of making it really easy, depending on how we draft a public records request, if the emails are originating with a county employee who's already subject to the rule, it creates a cleaner line for a public records request.
Well, I mean, what we could do is potentially see if IT will set up a email address for the committee, and any emails could get copied to that email address, would be on the county system then.
That's
And
good.
then you could just run, if you had a public records request, you just run a search on that mailbox.
That would probably be.
Well, I will not be using my personal email address. I will be using another email address. Nothing that I have is going to go to my personal, because I have information on there about my mother's health and things like that, and nobody's going to be using that.
What about that? Just come up with a Gmail account for the committee.
Well, I mean, I think you could do that. I was thinking of having it on the county system, so then they have automatic backup. And if there's a public records, their IT just runs the search for you.
So would you be willing to create an alternate email address just for the work of this committee?
Certainly.
And you guys may want to do that.
I think that's fair to say. Anyway, that keeps all my personal stuff.
Yeah.
What would your concern, how would we
And I'll check into that.
phrase it as a motion?
Would you think Hugh, you think we need to vote on, we need a motion to actually officially say what our mode of communication will be?
What's the topic?
We're establishing a protocol for communication because we're trying to observe good faith public records policy in conducting the business of the committee.
I like the way he said that, so I'll take the gavel, and then you can make that motion. You can't make it as chair.
I don't know if he was really asking me for a motion or language for minutes.
Language for minutes, mostly. But
Good deal.
clear-cut protocol for...
You guys may have to think about that, but I'll check up and see if, I'm
Just
sure
find out
it's
what
easy
you
to
can
get
find
an email address. Maybe, WAKULLA PRR committee at mywakulla.com. Then any correspondence, you just CC that address and automatically then you have a record of it.
Well, I think
So you guys don't have to
I just don't
hurry
want
around trying to...
us to do something stupid, and then somebody comes and challenges,
I want you to do
and
that.
here we have wasted time.
And we will need a big room.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to avoid the
And
big
police.
room.
Right.
Does anybody have any other questions about sunshine or public records?
And certainly distributing anything at these meetings is never a problem.
No, just
Yeah, we do what we
obviously
want
you need
here.
to keep a copy of it.
Is there a provision for storage for us?
That's what I was saying. I would suggest that the secretary get a copy of everything, and then periodically, we'd have to create some sort of file here. Periodically, get it to Jessica, I guess, and she can hold on to it for you.
Well, if we can put it in our email.
Let's then make this a matter of procedure for us. If you have something for the committee, even if it is an email, if you would print that email, then I'll maintain a file. And then,
Until we
if
get
I get hit by a truck.
Well,
We'll
yeah,
have
and that's the thing.
Try not
in
to.
terms of
And if you
public-
do, don't let
public
the car
records.
burn.
Yeah. The things that are being discussed, if you look at what's been happening with the city commission in Tallahassee, the arguments they've been having about public records and talking about digitizing and reasonable procedures, and they've had some disagreement about that. So it's, let's say someone says, I want a public records request on this committee, and they're not producing information fast enough because, we can't get a hold of Hugh, and he's got hard copies of things
Well,
that
that's
we
fine.
need.
Or we can have it where after, when I send the minutes out, I'd be happy to either copy Jessica or bring hard copies of whatever to,
Do you have the
to someone.
capacity?
Okay,
I
but
don't
how
know
do you
who that
send the
would
minutes
be.
out?
Because really, it would be ideal to have that, staffer to send it to, and we're not getting that yet.
Minutes are,
Yeah.
it's a one-way
You
thing.
can email them out.
Then you
Yeah.
talk
Okay.
the next meeting if I get it wrong or
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then we bring it and then
changes
talk
or
about corrections at the
corrections.
table.
Exactly.
What about hard copies of anything? Do you have the capacity to scan things?
Gotta go.
Yeah.
What if we have the legal question? Just holler.
Yeah, you guys can ask legal questions. That's fine.
You won't be.
But we'll have to save them for you.
Heather's always been a comment in here.
Yeah,
I'd rather have you ask than guess. So.
Yeah. That probably makes it sense.
Only if we guess wrong, though, right? Right guess is all right.
But I think you guys have, I mean, I can give you my emails, but I think you all have mine and Bethany's, and you can feel free to share them with the group.
And we should
she's easier to get a hold of sometimes than I am.
At some point, we'll have to give it to. Will you be our person, or Bethany? I know the other one, Bethany.
You can copy us both. I mean, she knows if I'm traveling and not able to get to it, she'll usually jump on it quick.
And y'all will put it together when we start getting things together to make sure it's written correctly.
Well, now you guys are supposed to do that,
So
and then get it to. County Administrator, County Attorney, and Public Records.
Okay, so we'll put the whole thing together and then get it to you. You look over it.
But if you have questions as you go along, that's a big deal.
That answers what I was concerned about.
All right. Any other questions or issues for the group before I head out?
Prayer?
Oh, you guys will be fine. If anything comes up, just email me and I'll stop in and see if I get an email address.
Okay.
On the county server. I think that would be easier for you all
That probably
than
just
having to
makes
worry
a
about
great
cobbled together.
It's a great idea. Use the technology, and I also concur with what Chairman said about possibly scanning the documents, because that's kind of what I'd like to see in our effort is let's try to get away from paper as much as we can and into electronic format. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's cleaner, organization's easy. I like the idea of scanning everything that we can. I think that's a great idea.
Well, and then you've got it on, you could copy it to your county email address and it would be there.
I like that.
Until their email server gets overloaded, and like ours has at our office, and then you have a big problem. But
yeah, when it works well. When it fails, it
There's
fails
this thing called
well.
backup that's really a wonderful invention. Yeah.
Oh, no,
so
we got
many
it, but
codes.
when you need to upgrade it, because you got too much email on there, you're looking at $20,000, so.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But
firm?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
We had a lot of emails, a lot of big legal documents stuck on attachments. So,
Yeah, it makes sense.
You guys can't download it off the server and store it?
On Laserfish you can, with your Unicode.
Well, but you can, but not if you want EPN.
Got to pay for it.
Okay. Or high. Gotcha. We want you to get it immediately. I'm in a hurry.
Well, there is that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's basically, you guys are off and running, and if you need, like I said, once you go through the resolution, if there's anything that's unworkable, I'm sure that the board would be amenable to, but that would require an amended resolution if it's set out in there, which is not that big of a deal, but, and I think I drafted that originally, so if you need any help drafting.
It's on that thing you have that you can't get to. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
You too.
Thank
Happy New
you.
Year.
Now this ordinance will be on Unicode. It'll be on there.
Yeah.
It'll be what?
It'll be in Unicode.
Oh.
Well, in terms of conducting business, I think we probably only need motions for things that we want to, if we finalize something and we want to make sure that it ends up in the final policy, we probably need motions to deal with that.
But can we track a proposed draft by vote? Steve says, I want all public records to have blue shirts. For our draft,
Yeah.
we vote on it. And then I can keep a running log of the draft, which again is a draft that we can either reconsider, modify, throw out, or whatever. Then we have a rolling document.
Yes.
And then that's really then the only reason we would need to vote. I mean,
Right,
we can talk
basically.
about things, but
Just to say we accept this resolution.
and then
part of the
and
draft.
then to certainly with it being available to reconsider before it becomes final.
Sure, that we have a draft that we agree on, that we say we agree that we're putting this forward as our recommendation.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't think we have to get overly formal. I think
Right,
maybe
I'd
the point
like
you're getting to is let's try to be as informal as possible when it's required to make a motion to adopt, for instance, a draft. When we get to X point, I think is a good idea,
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
or concepts.
Jessica's going to get that set up through IT.
Okay.
It'll probably be PRR committee at WAKULLA.com, but she'll email it
She'll
and
let us
let you
know.
know.
Great.
And then just be conscientious to CC that address, and you can have easier time of keeping your record.
Well, I'm going to set up a Gmail account that says prr/page@gmail.com. I don't know what the rest of y'all are going to do.
Yeah, I may just go ahead and use my...
What took so long, Heather?
Huh?
What took so long?
I know.
Yeah, you totally hit the nail on the head, that I'd like us to have some exchange of ideas and then to be formal when we're actually agreeing on something that's going to be a product of the committee. If that's all right with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. I think we should probably just look over this document and make sure that we've...
The resolution?
Yeah, the resolution, make sure that we meet all the provisions of the resolution. That would be business order, item 1, and then we talk about the schedule of meetings, and then we could conclude with a little general discussion about our idea of what we're thinking about. But limit that today because we probably could be here for hours talking about the ins and outs of public records stuff.
Review resolution, then consider meeting times.
Yeah, the schedule of times and days.
And I kind of have a request. I think we should ask for that extra month, whether or not we need it,
I agree.
because we've already lost it, and we don't know what we're going to be hit with. So I think we need to do that.
That could be handled almost by the next meeting as a consent agenda item.
Consent agenda item, okay.
Well, okay.
Problem?
I'm just not a big believer in extending deadlines that aren't required. That's all. I'd like to see the work get done in the time frame allotted, and if we need it, we need it. But I
So you think maybe
think
we
we're
should
setting
wait,
ourselves up for procrastination.
maybe
that's
wait
all.
till we're more like a month out and we say we're not done yet?
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
It's just a personal.
No, I really think we should ask
Well,
for
wait,
it,
yeah,
because we don't know what other people's schedules are.
My thought
okay.
was, we would be
Yeah.
starting,
The holidays
I
are
think
fixing to come upon
I
us.
think the first meeting was postponed a month just because of...
It was scheduled for the
Trying to
end of
get
December, the end of, like, right before Thanksgiving it was scheduled for. So we're about 3 weeks late.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, effectively we lost a month.
First month.
Our deadline's not until March 7th, correct?
Yes. So it's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, but you're in Valdosta sometimes.
It's true. Yeah.
I may
You
be
know
in
your
North
next
Shore
year's
twice.
schedule yet? What
I
dates
do.
might be?
Well, I don't. Valdosta, when they want me to come is a little iffy sometimes. Although I do have some choices in that. My one thing is actually in the spring, because I do teach one night a week at FSU as a visiting professor. My night is Tuesday nights in the spring, so I know that I cannot meet on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
Anything else is fairly flexible. Like I can say to Valdosta, I need to not meet on this day.
Right.
She's gone.
We left on our own now.
Road supervisor.
She's over there.
I tell you what, y'all are nothing but trouble.
Dave, I already gave you trouble this morning.
Okay,
I
let's
guess-
just took off.
Yeah.
Y'all stole my turn. I needed her for just a minute.
I swear she was here not 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, she said as a committee we can answer most questions, so what's the question?
What are we going to do about this wastewater treatment plant?
Oh, where do
Well,
I start?
a bigger pipe.
Do you have enough time?
Where you
for
want to
that?
put it?
We've already got a $3 million debt service, and we're at capacity, and we've got to expand the plant, and we don't have any impact fees to pay for the debt service, that'll pay the debt service that's paying our operations. But we got to expand the plant because we're overloaded.
No one else at the table would like the solution I have for that.
Okay, what's your solution?
Well, we need
There
money to pay
is
for this
no-
stuff. We need a referendum to pay for it.
There is no. The problem is y'all. You send it to Tallahassee, that's an option, but that's got problems, or expand our
That's got a
plant.
lot of problems.
Expand our plant.
What are the
That takes
problems?
money, and then that's more debt service.
What's the cost of sending it to
What
Tallahassee?
is the cost of sending time?
Yeah.
I realize there's
It's
issues.
all according to which way you
I
go.
was gonna say because they've been sending us their crap for a while, so we could reverse that.
I mean, we just look at
Could
Yeah, but look at
Back up
this.
there.
Shit rolls downhill, not
It has
uphill.
been.
But we
I
got a
know.
pump to push it back up there.
They've been working on that nitrate problem, though. You know, they could do some progress.
Anyway, we're working on that, but no, that's what our we got to scratch our heads on that one.
Yeah, I think so. Bless your heart.
I heard sewer's supposed to be profitable.
It's the other way around. If we had a water system to offset it, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not
We
fun.
make $25,000 a year off our water system. And it
Gotcha.
costs us $30,000 to operate it. So thank you
So
very
we're
much.
already into that. Good stuff.
I understand. You better get with a
Stay
lawyer.
private.
I know, right? Yeah.
Non-profit and private.
Are we gonna shoot for nighttime? Is that what you're gonna have? Or
Well-
this 4 o'clock thing? Is that?
I actually have some flexibility for daytime because as a professor, I don't necessarily.
What
it's not a
about
regular
Steve
9 to 5
and-
job?
I'm available just about.
The only reason I had mentioned at least every other meeting or something like
Yeah.
that, have it at 4, so we get access to some of these people. If we should come to a spot where we need.
I would say 4 is fine. Even earlier is fine for me. I mean,
Yeah, I can go anytime. So
I can come in at 9 or 10 myself in the morning.
I can do it anytime except for Tuesdays. Tuesdays are not.
Tuesdays are not good for you?
They are not.
And Tuesday evenings aren't good for me
Yes,
because
second
of,
Tuesday.
I can do it just about any time with some notice, but as long as before.
I got to notice that with
May
appointments.
need a assistant secretary. I mean, I don't mind doing this, and that's not a case. I'm perfectly willing to do this, but sometimes I have health stuff
okay,
that lays me out. So
sure.
you know,
I can take your minutes if need be. It's not a problem.
then I'm cool with a few days' notice.
You're
Now,
saying
I'm
the
a big
second
voter.
Tuesday?
Wait,
Second, well, that's what this is. We happen to be at the second Tuesday, right? And I'm
And
just
if
trying to be
it stays
consistent.
Tuesdays, I can't do it at 4 because I need to be in my office at FSU by 4:30 on Tuesdays in the spring, starting January.
Well,
should we?
I'm flexible.
You want to try it in the afternoons or earlier? I mean,
Like morning on
morning,
Tuesday.
late morning.
But you said
Probably
Tuesday's
late
bad
morning
for you.
is-
Tuesdays are bad for me.
So a different day.
I'm good most of the
I do all
time.
my
It's not
ordering
real.
on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I have several meetings usually on Tuesday.
Well, we could do like a Wednesday morning or something, maybe?
And that-
Huh?
Or
No,
afternoon?
I'm flexible.
Mornings I tend to be working at home anyway, so it's...
Just so it doesn't get where I can't get. I work with a lot of banks
Yeah.
in California,
Oh, okay.
so I work on the time, and they send us stuff later at night a lot of times when I'm not working. So the next morning,
You're catching
there's
up on
things
it?
I got to catch.
What's a
I
good
don't
time
have
of
to
day?
have to.
What's a good time of day?
I don't know if 11 is too late because then we may go through lunch. But I just about have to have some time.
How about 2 o'clock on Wednesdays?
That's perfect. The anytime
Yeah.
after I make
How does
all
that
my
work for
appointments
you
in the
guys?
afternoon.
It's good for me. I mean,
Okay.
we're talking
That's
about
okay with
meetings.
me.
How often do you think we're going to need to meet?
I think we should have our next meeting right after the first of the year would be my suggestion, so we can get rolling and then we can see how that.
The 4th or the 11th? Like immediately after? Or...
I was thinking Wednesday after that. That's
So that'd be
actually the date I
Wednesday
had
the
my
4th.
eye on, but I'm again.
And
like
I
say, I'm
will
flexible.
not be here.
Wednesday the what?
The 4th.
If I'm here, I would be very surprised.
Okay.
Well, we could make that one even a Thursday or what? The one right after.
I'll be back by the 11th.
Okay, we could wait till the
Oh,
11th.
11th.
So to consider that it's still sort of kids out of school, et cetera. It's still sort of holiday time. That first day.
And I also think we should set a meeting instead of having some notice in between. And maybe I've misunderstood this, but before we leave here, agree on the next one. Have a standard time.
I just have parent issues that
But
I have
does
to
that
take care of with
make
my
sense,
sisters.
or do you all want to try to do
I
that?
like the idea of being flexible at each meeting, setting the next meeting date, so that, because things do come up,
But at the meeting,
schedules are dynamic, and if we can come up with a date at the end of each meeting, I think that may be, and that'll also allow us to base our meeting schedule on the workload that we're currently.
We may need to be more frequent.
that's what I think.
So if we could say
Okay.
that the 11th might work for you, is that all right?
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, wait, the 11th?
The 11th.
Okay, I've got to be here at 10 to 11:30, so.
You can take a break for lunch and come back at 2? Or no, that's hard.
I think
Okay.
I can. I mean, if you want to do it at 2, I don't see a problem with that. I can make a day of it. I've got no problem at 2. Shouldn't go. Yeah.
Your day at the commission office.
Yes. Okay, that works.
Okay. So Wednesday, January 11th, 2 p.m.
We have that at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay, so we have a time. That's good.
Okay, good.
The pieces of this resolution, I think they've established the advisory committee. That's us. We're charged with.
I was a little confused about number 2, A and B appear to be virtually identical in my mind. Maybe I'm missing something there, but what things
Well,
that
changes
we
to current
shall
policy
do.
versus the list of new ones. So if we're creating an entirely new policy, that's under B. If we're just amending a current policy, that's under A. That's my reading of it.
Changes in the new or different. I don't know why
I
they
think it's
change, I guess, but anyway.
Yeah, that seems a little. The new or different is probably a little redundant. If it's new, it is different. So.
This is what we shall. This report shall contain these items. So we certainly want to.
It's poorly written legalese, perhaps. Maybe. Okay, a line item estimate of expected cost savings. That'll be fun.
Well, first of all, we have to know what the county's already spent.
Yeah, we do need to understand. That's information we need, absolutely. So we need, and if we want to ask for this information, do we want an aggregate number for annually, or do we want to break down, do you want them to itemize it a month?
How about we do?
Now you have two. It's not just the cost to the county. The county takes in income. I think that's
A little over $1,100, I think, so far this year.
Well, here, let's see. The cost would be the man hours that are used when a request is put in. If an attorney is required, what that cost would be.
Staff hours.
Staff hours.
Things like actual printing costs.
Here, wait a minute. Paige, do you have the policy?
No.
No, actually, I don't know either. I haven't looked at the quote. I don't have a copy.
I did look at it, I think, online.
It's online. I'll
I did
go
look
ahead and
at
hand
it.
these out. There's just 2 documents on there. If you've got hard copies, that'll be good. One of the
Okay.
documents on this
Thank
disc
you.
is the policy. Okay, that's currently in effect. There's also an outstanding PowerPoint on there that the First Amendment Foundation created.
Okay.
That will give you just an overview, more than an overview. It gets really pretty specific in terms of the public records procedures, what were required statutorily that must be complied with. So it's a real good overview. And the First Amendment came and put on a presentation, and they were kind enough to forward the PowerPoint to me. So if you get a little bit of time, you might just click on that and
Okay,
go through it.
so this is the county, everything.
No, one document is the county policy.
Okay.
Okay, right off of the website.
Okay.
Which you talked about. It's a PDF. Then there's
Okay.
a PowerPoint presentation. The
Okay.
PowerPoint presentation is Open Government Public Records, OGPR is what they call it.
All right, okay.
One other thing, if you have an opportunity, getting this book is also something that's...
What does it say? You're moving it too
I'm
fast?
sorry, this is Government in the Sunshine Manual. This is something that also the First Amendment Foundation puts out.
Okay.
And it is all about public records, all of there's scenarios in here, it's just a really good reference for because whatever we come up with, yes, sir, and
That's online, too.
Isn't it online? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. I think you can, for a small donation to the First Amendment Foundation, they'll give you this thing, and it is Because whatever policies and procedures we come up with, first and foremost, we're going to have to be doggone sure that they comply with
the Sunshine Law, but also the Florida statutes. And I do know that the Florida statutes have...
fire radio.
You remind me of Maxwell Smart then.
Yeah, it wasn't my shoes.
It wasn't his shoes. No, what I was going to say is I know the legislature changed some things in this last legislative session, because I did look online about that, and it had something to do with Rick Scott and Alex Sink, and I do not know what it was about. I do know that some of their policies did change, and
some of that.
Yeah, so
and there's issues. There were issues with Rick Scott losing his emails and his communication things when things were lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's.
I think most of what revolved around the changes were in the cost structure.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I just know that.
Here's the problem with this thing as written. Public records as a cost is a cost of doing business to the county because of the statute. You know, if I make a request, if somebody comes in and wants this thing here, I can't charge them but 15 cents for it, because that's statutorily required. So the efficiency can't come in by charging $1 for a piece of paper. It has to come in other ways. What got me involved was information flow seemed inefficient. Inefficiencies cost everybody, the citizen and the staff.
Isn't there a statute that says it can't cost no less than?
No, because I've heard of places charging you $1 or more a page.
Those are clerks.
Because
the clerks of the court, that's their that's their exemption, or that's their
okay. Well,
benefit.
Are we going to be then? Is this policy going to be broadened to where is it just the county, or the clerk comes under the county? Are we going to be?
I think this is just the county. I think this is the county commission. The
own
clerk is a separate entity.
Because I know what the clerk costs, and I know that that's expensive.
Yeah, and I think as a constitutional officer, they're under a different set of rules.
No, they're under the
Florida statute.
I mean, Florida statute, but in terms of
they have their own
they're
custodian.
under the judicial branch.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The other constitutionals are not.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
All right.
I see. But
you want
we're
something
not
out of the sheriff's department or out of the property appraiser, it's still 15 cents.
So they are following the same exact rule? It's not by agency then? Okay. So the clerk of the court is the only one that's different.
Court. It's $1.
Okay. All right, I see now. Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
The same CD.
Yeah.
It's $10 over there.
We get for $1. Costs $10 over there.
So there's
Well, maybe what we need to find out is what is the cost of that CD being made. If it's more than $1, then the cost of that CD should be, to me, exactly what it costs to make.
But that's not what the statute says.
That's not what the statute says?
No. So yeah, we'd have to go a little higher for rule changes. So my question with this is,
So we're already in the whole monetary.
which seems to be the case.
Well, no. I mean, you can say as a business person, you're in the whole monetarily. That you've got.
Whether those tax dollars are being spent for a sewer plant or whether those tax dollars are being spent for public records, keeping our government in the sunshine is a cost. We're trying to make it more efficient and reduce that cost to the county is what our goal is. If our goal is to try to make this a profit center, I can assure you I don't think that's in the cards.
I don't know.
That's
non-profit.
Right. But we are trying to create some efficiencies, and I think we'll be successful at that. I think.
So you're saying the state statute says 15 cents.
That's correct.
That's all it can
And
be.
we
It can't
should
be no more than
probably
that.
review
Oh,
the two statutes referenced.
It could be less.
Chapters.
There can't be no more.
Can't be any more.
Those two chapters are this. And I took a bunch of these older ones. I mean, the basic framework for public records and meeting stays pretty much the same.
Can
There may be a bunch of these down at the WAKULLA library. I took a bunch of them down.
I may have a couple extras.
Yeah,
This is my
I mean,
own-
I don't
I
want
looked
to make
today
any
to bring
donations to the First
some.
Amendment Foundation to get enough funds, so that's, you know.
What I'm curious about is, in theory, just in theory, tell me what you think there. We would have to take the state's rules at the very minimum. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And then we
Statute.
can.
We'll have to comply with those, whatever we do.
We could be-
correct.
So if we took if we took and started over, which I would prefer to do really, but that's got to, y'all have to agree with that. But if we started over and we got the very minimum of what to start with, and then we adjusted, in theory, does that make sense so that I can understand that we have some rules we're going to have to abide by?
Well, okay, so if we start with the state rule as our baseline and then figure out how to make that work for WAKULLA. I have another question about this, though, because I'm wondering, in addition to the cost of doing these, like what has it actually been costing the county, but also what kinds of public records requests have come in? Are they things that should really be digitized and online and really easy to access anyway? Or are they kind of like more little nitpicky things where like I want to see everybody's emails on a certain subject?
That's why I did the research on Unicode and Laserfish. Let me explain something to you. This Laserfish system, when New Orleans had their flood, they could have taken out every bit of information in a bag like this. That's how easy it is to put it on Laserfish. Does it have to be digitally scanned? Yes. But then it would give them, everybody, access at any time. Any information that I want to know about the county, I go to Unicode. It's on there. If it's not on there, then that's the problem. The past, you know, before they got on Unicode, the Laserfish product, those things weren't available.
Gotcha.
And Laserfish is more like the old microfish. So,
right.
And this is Pipe Dream City, okay, but I'd like to see if an interested citizen everything online.
Like, what's everything, though? That's my question. What's everything?
Emails, everything.
Okay, so my question is, when we say email, do we mean email sent out on a county email address? Okay.
No.
Not necessarily.
Public email.
I don't think
So
you
public
could do
email.
that and get away with it. In theory, I agree, but I don't think you could, because you're going to have some things that these guys talk about that are involved possibly a lawsuit.
but there's also a Homeland Security Act that we have to look at, because you can't put Social Security numbers out there or anything like that.
We're kind of getting a little bit of the cart before the horse, but
Well,
if I may,
go ahead.
there are some things that I'd like to address, because that is an issue. We need to start coding, and this, like I said, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I'm doing it here. Is that the county needs to have a policy where they code their emails so that a very quick search will say there is some possibly redactable material in this email. If it's not coded that way, it'll be far easier and far less. Right now, a lot of staff time is going through emails. That's probably one of the most expensive searches that the county is currently doing. And let me back up just for a second. Just so you understand, the county is complying with the bare minimums now. Okay? Just so you understand, it's not. I want to be sure that it's kind of clear that there's not an overabundance of staff time being invested in projects that aren't statutorily required. Okay? What's being done is pretty much the bare minimum right now. Some of the county attorney time has been reduced because we were paying $150 an hour for some of these reviews.
It was my understanding it was $175.
It was $150 for a while, then it went down to 50-some, which is prorated based on their monthly charge and the hours they spend here at the county. So that's fair. So some of the procedures we need to do is get it more efficient so that staff spends less time doing what they do. And some of the things, and the range is exactly right, and I can certainly provide this without violation of sunshine, but I have, Virginia keeps a log in an Excel file, which is the requester's name. If you don't have to have it, you may have it.
Okay.
And it has the cost, and she has an Excel database where she tracks all of these.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
And that's a very good piece of information.
Yeah,
I'm interested in that because
No, wait a minute. They have them from 4 and 5 years.
Okay, that's
They should have them from 2006.
And you'll see,
There you go.
and you'll see,
You guys want to pass these around. This is what Steve's talking about.
that's,
So, and then my other question is, let's say, like right now, they have the capacity to search things that come out from commissioners on county emails. But what if somebody files a public records request and they say, well, I want all Mike Stewart's Wakulla County School emails too, because I think maybe he discussed county business on his Wakulla County School address.
right.
So what happens then?
Then it is incumbent most likely upon Mr. Stewart to provide those emails. Unless, I'm not familiar with the custodian of records for the school system, but it is ultimately the person that creates that record is responsible for that record. So if you send an email, even on your personal, and it's related to county business, technically you are the custodian of that record.
Well, where does the burden of proof come? So
Well, that's a whole other discussion, because you may say, I don't have it, and that's where you could get into some legal issues. If somebody did produce it, yes, if somebody produced it and said, there's an email here that you said you didn't have, but it is kind of on the honor system. I mean, ultimately, this boils down to, if somebody asks for a personal email and say, I understand you may have emailed somebody regarding county business and you don't provide it, it's on the honor system.
Yeah, there's got to be that.
Couldn't these things be redacted ahead of time?
Well, I don't think that somebody redacting without legal, that's a possibility. I wouldn't
No,
rule
what
it
I'm
out.
saying is like you have somebody's like, I don't know, personnel file, and here's their social security number. You do that out. Their children's names,
Right.
you get them out. Their insurance policy, the fact that they've been through, whatever. That's information that, to me, common sense-wise, we know we can't have, so why don't they just do it ahead of time?
They only do, well, because that would be inefficient. That would be inefficient. They only do it now when it's time, whenever there's a request. If you were to do it ahead of time, I think that would be counterintuitive to efficiency. I don't disagree, it'd be a great idea, but I think it would cost us more to do it up front. When you have to do it, then you do it. I think what's crucial that we have to do is we have to teach or have a procedure or policy countywide that when a document does have redactable information, that there is some key search term somehow, some way associated with that, so that when you do a search, a broad search, you can also sub-search for that key, whether it be in the subject somewhere or somewhere where it gets flagged, and then those go to somebody that looks at those for what needs to be redacted.
Well, they should go to an attorney.
Well, there's two steps. Normally, it's the custodian of records will look at it, and the custodian can usually do most everything. I mean, unless it comes to a legal case, but there are a broad number of redactable, legally redactable portions that a custodian of records can do. The problem is finding which records. She has to sort through all the records. She doesn't have to, but that's what the county's been doing. The county's been going through and looking at every single email and reading each one to see if there's any redactable information. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, why aren't you doing like a keyword search or something?
There you go.
Like a technology.
Well, it's inefficient, but here's the other side of that coin. You get some of my information that I'd prefer somebody not have. I'm not going to be just in your lap. I'm going to be in your face with a warrant, and I'm going to be sitting in courtroom with you saying you have stomped on my rights. I don't want you to know what my Social Security number is.
Right.
Because I used to work for the state of Georgia, and one of the things we could never do when we printed out anything for the Department of Labor, we could never, ever give out anything except for their name. We couldn't give out their birthday.
We have sunshine laws, so.
We couldn't give out a birthday, Social Security number. I mean, we had to be very careful, and if we couldn't do it out, we had to black it out. We just were not allowed.
Now. We're dealing with Florida.
Right.
Well, that's true, but what I'm saying is Social Security number is a big thing.
That's an issue.
Yes, it is.
So
But that's by statute.
But there's a multi-step
Yeah,
thing here, because this whole, I think, thing of keywords, I think if somebody makes a request, the staff could say, these are the keywords that I'm going to search for. And the person requesting could say, please add these additional keywords to the list. There's an agreement. these are the keywords I'm plugging in, and then they do it that way. If it pops up on those keywords, those are the emails you get for your public records request versus reading every email between two people.
Well, the problem is sometimes you can make a request for date certain rather than keywords. And I do think that there should be some interaction between the requestor and the custodian of the records to make it easier for both sides, because there's many times that they take the request literally, where if there would have been just a small change, once you know more about the public record, you start saying, oh, I could have asked for this and it would have eliminated a whole lot. I'm not looking for all of this. I'm not looking for this huge scope of work. So there's things that we can do to try to facilitate.
Is there any kind of training that allows the person to know what to get? I mean, is there training that the state does for the custodian? Okay.
Yes.
And so we have somebody who goes to that training every year.
Multiple
Okay.
times.
I think, and to answer Bob's question, if you look at the policies on it, the current policy, right? It's on your.
Yeah, it's on the CD. Unless you have copies.
Look at this and look at the the First Amendment Foundation thing. It'll give you
a real good idea.
The First Amendment thing gives you an exceptional overview to the subject. The existing Wakulla County policy gives you a good overview of what's going on. Then, and bring it to Bob's earlier point about when do we schedule. I would love to see and make accessible at least one or two of these meetings to the general public at a time when they can come to say, I've been trying to get a pothole in front of my house fixed. I've had to do these things, public records, it's not working, what's the deal? Or they were going to charge me $1 zillion. You know,
so we could do
to have public input. I'd really like something.
That's not a bad idea, especially because it would help us understand the concerns of the
I
community.
would think that I will talk to somebody. Once I talk, somebody's going to be interested enough to want to come.
Yeah.
Or see, that's one of the reasons we met at the Wetlands Committee met at the library to allow for public input. And then we had a couple of meetings over there.
Right.
One evening, I think, and one Saturday.
If we could do a day meeting and alternate them, maybe. I know we're getting back into meetings.
But if we specifically want to,
solicit the comments of
maybe specifically have a session devoted to that, where we say this is our listening session.
We could announce it at a county meeting.
Yeah, the public record
we're going to do this.
policy.
Let's maybe the next meeting.
Announce it when we're going to have one, and y'all, if you got something to say, please come tell me.
Well, it's a great idea. I think that's outstanding.
I think it needs to be done. I think
Do we want to do it in January, though, because it's coming up to the holiday?
Well, no, at the first meeting. Just
say
say
January.
we want. We'll have her email address. We want public comment. We will be soliciting public comment at our meetings. If you have a concern or you have a question or you want to know our schedule, email here.
Is our next meeting pre or post board meeting?
We're probably going to have the next one.
Well,
wait a minute. When is the county?
The first one? The first
in
one
January.
The 11th.
The 11th. So we're having our first meeting of 2012 on the 11th.
Oh, are you talking about the county
board
commission meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the board meeting,
What's
I think it's on the 9th.
On the 9th.
That would be perfect. If they did it on the 9th, we could have people come to our meeting on the 11th.
Okay.
Can I find out for sure, or do you know?
I'm 99%.
Oh, wait a minute, it's online.
Yeah, Jessica just sent it out. Let
She
me read
just
the
sent
email.
the schedule. Anybody got one of those?
Yeah, I got it. Hang on.
I got it, but it ain't ready to go.
I just got a new phone, and I'm still learning how to use it.
So did I.
It's not a...
I got Lisa.
And my daughter told me to give it to a 14-year-old to tell me how to use
I
it.
know, seriously.
That's what I had to do.
Well, we talked a lot about the emails a little bit ago, but there's so many documents that are a piece of paper, and I'm assuming that I heard a touch on while ago scanning stuff. I don't know, because I don't know enough about this until I look into it, can everything be scanned, or is there still going to be certain stuff? I know that you can't scan a file.
You can scan
somebody
every
wanted to-
document through Laserfish.
Is it big stuff?
Yeah, anything through Laserfish.
But
That's what
I'm gonna do-
Laserfish is, the product that
You're
does the
talking
Unicode.
like flats. Flats.
Everything.
You
because
can scan them, but I don't know that they wouldn't have to be farmed out.
well, that's
No,
kinda-
you take them
But
to-
they only can charge. Now the cost of the, I was looking at trying to get some kind of maps, but they were basically, I think they may have been flats.
Where,
What if you just go down to Edward Brown's and just get them that way?
No, they were county documents.
you got to have
Oh, they
what's
were
here.
county documents?
Oh, they got a box in there for every subdivision,
But-
for instance, that's ever been.
No,
filed.
Ann Arbor threw some of them away.
It cost
Maybe.
it cost the county $450 to get them,
Uh,
and $450 is what they charged for.
I think
It had
that's
to
fair.
wait. It had to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you know, the cost of copying to a CD is, or DVD is nothing. Put it in a machine.
Now,
push copy, and
the,
that's it.
where I wanted to go,
Can you do it? Yeah. Do they do it? No.
there
They
is.
do it on a case by case. You can get them.
I go to, in my real estate world, I go to certain sites in on county stuff, and I have to pay on that website. I have to be a member, and it's for county records, Franklin County specifically. Franklin County I can get around. One other guy showed me how to get around it. Maybe they should now. Just pick another county, and anyone you want. But
Well, I don't know, like Taylor County,
you
Jefferson
go
County.
some of those counties, and I go there. If I want a deed, I put my login in, and it'll charge me. And I have an account, and it has usually set up on a debit card.
But is that through the county, or is that through a private company that's taken over the county records?
I don't
Both.
know the answer to that.
Both?
Both,
To be honest, I just know that it's done. So I was thinking, well, it'll cost initially have some cost to scan every little paper. But when our document comes out, well, that'll probably get scanned and put as public record anyway. But our records may not. But if they did, and it was there, and you could pay, it stops a person here from feeding pages into a machine, and you can charge 15 cents a copy there. And once you put it in once, it's there. Even if you put the big stuff in, if you can do that, it's $450. Okay, you get your money back the first time for it, and after that, I hate to use the word profit, but that'd be what it is. It would pay for some of the other deficiencies. At some point, it would start rolling over.
Well,
Does
if
that-
it was,
am I
if the
explaining
money
myself?
was in the county, I'd have no problem with that.
No, it'll go.
But if it goes to,
It can't go to a private
like
party.
what Steve said, it's a private company running
No,
that I have
nobody
a
can
problem
make
with.
money. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
The concept, I guess, is where I'm at, and then I'll
That
go look
might
into
have been about the clerk getting the money. If you want a deed, that would be the cost of what it would cost you to get that deed if you went to that courthouse.
Now, when last
Yeah,
deed
that-
I got,
that
it
was
cost
right.
me $1.
Pardon?
Last deed I got,
Yeah.
it cost me $1.
One page?
Yes, sir.
One page costs $1, and I think it was on there. That's probably what I was looking at was the. But my point is that something that's even a consideration
well-
to look into?
No, those are set statutorily. But
Not $1, but charge our rates, but have the same system, to where if you want it, you can have it.
Well, see, I love it, but I believe in one time. You know, if a document is generated, it should go somewhere, and that's it. But that's
Should go in, be scanned.
that
Yeah,
should go
that's what I'm talking
somewhere
about. Yeah.
where you could anybody could come and say, "I want this document,"
I understand.
and it would be, well, we don't.
Then can we meter it?
untouched by human hands.
Well, let me tell you one of the problems we have right now that frustrates me. Let me tell you some frustration I have is that if I ask for a public record that's a hard copy only, right now, the way that it has worked is that they will only give me a paper copy. I'm willing to pay the 15 cents, scan it, and email it to me. Nope, we got to copy it, and you got to come up and pick it up. How inefficient is that? That I have to spend my time, drive. I'd be willing to pay the 15 cents. Don't kill a tree. Don't waste toner. Don't wear and tear on the machine. Just go scan it. And it takes less time. Most of the time, it's virtually identical, same time, to scan it or to make a copy of it. The machine's multifunction. You put it in, it scans it, it can go right to hard disk, email it to me, my request is over.
Right.
But right now the county...
Is there a charge for that?
I would be willing to pay the 15 cents. Now, technically, no. You could get an electronic record, and the way the county should be set up is if it's an electronic record and it's easily accessed and it's less than a half-hour time to find, just email it to the person.
Well, that's basically what I'm talking about.
But
But
the
it'd be
county doesn't
metered.
do that right now.
No.
Okay, the county feels that, no, we're going to make a copy, and so that's part of why we're here to discuss these things.
Yeah, it not aggravates me that we're not doing more things electronically also.
Yes. And that's going to be one of the big efficiencies we have is using that multifunction machine in there. And then now you've got it archived. Now it goes on a system somewhere in any public record. If somebody doesn't want a hard copy, that still should be scanned, in my opinion, and put in electronically.
You can print out your own
Then
hard
when you
copy,
want your
right.
profit, the next person that
That's what I'm
asks for that document
It's
that
free.
pays 15 cents,
Yes.
That's what my point was.
Right, yeah, because if it's something that people
And then
like
we'll
to ask
begin to
for
roll
again and
over
again.
to where you're scanning everything
And there
already.
Yes, and there are a number of requests in the log that are redundant.
Right.
You're going to see a lot of redundant
I
requests
understand.
that were
I
copied
understand
2
that
and 3,
too.
4 times when it should have just been sent out, in my opinion, electronically.
Right.
And I think we should give the person, I think we give the person the option. Listen, we'll charge you 15 cents a copy. We'll send it to you electronically. Maybe set up a PayPal account for the county to pay
That's
for
an
it.
idea.
And then,
PayPal, that's what I'm...
you know,
Yeah.
PayPal's
Because
clean
that
and easy.
don't go to the private. I was leaving the private person out. So
Yeah.
I agree. What I've done is public requests, public records requests, when I had to, let me tell you what I think I remember. Paying per page and then paying per hour for the employee.
Yes, anything over half an hour.
Anything over half hour, you got to
Anything
start
over half
paying
hour
the
staff
lowest
time.
rated staff person.
Capable of doing that.
capable of doing the work.
Correct.
That's one thing.
That's correct.
So if we can't go, but you know, we may lose that. But if it's in there every time it's asked for, I don't know. Maybe
It's
it makes
bingo.
up for
Well, no, we have had occasions. You want a copy of this? Say my Social Security number's on here.
That has to be either redacted.
Rachel makes a copy of this. Redacts that copy. Gives it to you.
Yeah.
He makes a copy for the same piece of paper.
Yeah, I understand.
Rachel has to go back and redact the copy again.
Excuse me,
That's why I was-
sorry to interrupt y'all. Any clue how long y'all will be? So we just...
We should probably, I think, wrap up in about 10 more minutes this first
Okay.
meeting. That's what I'm
You're
thinking.
about to
Is that
answer
all right?
a question that I had. I was going to ask Karen in a minute. Is if we have these meetings here, what kind of access do we have getting out? And somebody having to wait.
Here you go.
No,
We
that's
couldn't get you
why.
in a while ago. Then.
We couldn't move that door.
That door we won't open or lock.
Actually, that's a fire hazard. That somebody needs to look at that door and get that door to at least be
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I understand.
because I couldn't get it open. I tried to get it open to let him in, and it would not open. It's broke, I guess.
Yes, sir.
You understand? Okay, I just
There's a door right here.
on the other side.
Right here. On the side, right here. That
But we
will-
need to be out of here before y'all leave.
But, and that's all I was asking, just so we know.
And what time?
And I don't mean
What
to-
time do y'all
I'm not
usually
gonna-
leave?
Yeah, I'm usually here till about 5:30.
Okay.
And that would be an hour and a half for our first meeting.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we can...
Okay.
Thank you.
We're already on to our thanks. We're already on to our second meeting topics. But
Yeah, we kind of are. Which I anticipated happening when I said let's, throw out some ideas. But it gives
Well,
us something to think about.
It does because soon I'm going to go
That's
home
why I
and
was
think
talking about
for the next 2
redacting
weeks.
it in the beginning
And-
so that it's redacted for forever.
I didn't mean to mess you
and
up.
that's- when
I
you
just
say-
wanted to ask that.
I don't think, for instance, a personnel file, I don't think it should be redacted proactively. I think that when somebody requests that, it should be redacted. And when it's redacted, it should be stored then electronically, because let me tell you some of the other problem we've had here is that they provide the paper copy of the record, and they've redacted it. And typically they just use the whiteout where you can hold it up to the light and go,
They
oh.
redact in black.
Exactly.
Yeah, they-
That's
And
what
if-
I've always done.
And
Yeah.
if it were redacted and then scanned, the next time you would just simply print out that redacted file offline, and you would not have any chance of it being read through.
Yeah.
So everything would automatically go on. Only if it's asked for once, then it would be. So
Absolutely.
you'd still have some stuff that never got asked for.
But I do think that if that there should be training that goes on to all county employees that says if you have an email or you have a document, somehow we need to identify these documents as being potentially redactable information.
Okay.
At which case, because like I said, a lot of time wasted right now. If I make an email request for emails from this date to this date, somebody reads each and every one of those emails to see if there's any redactable information. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, it is.
Well, here's the other part of it.
Other counties don't do that.
Is if you ask for emails from here to here, you don't get live emails either.
What do you mean?
You get PDFs.
Yeah.
They print them out, go through, and send you the PDFs, and that is contrary to statute.
What should they be doing?
If the electronic
If
record's
it's
available, it
available
should be in that.
electronically, you can request it in the form that it was generated.
So they should make.
Are you talking about when somebody asks for a massive amount of information?
Any
kind of
one
information.
email that will come in a PDF. Now, the county attorney says that that's easier for them to deal with, but
Interesting. All right. But not we're asking for like an email that could be amended by someone after receipt. It would still be a PDF.
Yeah. I think
any emails, they used to just send you the original email, and I think what motivated it is that you can very easily then just take that and forward it to somebody
That's
and say,
what I'm
see what
saying.
somebody said,
Yeah.
and it goes to somebody. They want to make it more difficult. We have to
Right.
send it as an attachment and say, here's the PDF. You got to open the PDF.
More like something that can't be altered.
That's only my supposition, because that changed.
Well, you.
But
We're not changing the Florida law. I'm just telling you the Florida
Okay, no. I was trying to understand the Florida law better. Is what I was trying to figure out.
live link.
And I didn't understand what the live link meant.
we don't have a copy of Florida statute, do we?
what's that? It's in here.
This is, but this
Yeah.
is
There
county.
will be.
He told me
That's
very
an
clearly.
there
overview
will
of
be-
the Florida statute.
There will be a real good overview of what the state statutes are. That's
Yeah, I
what
just
the
don't
First
understand the
Amendment Foundation does.
definition of live link. I need to better understand that.
You can't go to a PDF and click on it and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
If I
but
tell
you
you
can
go
keep going.
to my favorite dog
Yeah.
in an email,
Why can't you copy and paste an address and look at it yourself without clicking on somebody's email? And does the statute say live emails with live links?
no, it says you're entitled to a duck in the form it was produced.
Yes.
Well, in the most basic sense of the word, that probably means electronic. So
If I'm asking for an email,
I think there's a legitimate concern with saying that if you send an email that is not a PDF, it is an easily altered document, and you could change it.
That's okay.
that's
Every document can be changed. PDFs
Well,
can be changed. I can change a PDF. Photoshop can change
But
it.
we're not
Ways
dealing
to
with
forensically
fraud
we're
is
not
fraud.
dealing with
And you can do it also with emails. All emails are coded, and forensically you can see if an email was modified.
Well, also you can count
Yes.
words and things like that. There's a
Good
lot
night.
of things you can do.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like the logistics of this. So if they were going to send emails, this would be my last question, and then I want to give you all a task. Because I'm just trying to understand this because I've never heard this before. So if does live link mean they could create a file of all the emails so that they were clickable, as he was saying? I'm trying to understand how that even works electronically.
Well, I think some versions of Adobe do handle the live links.
Okay.
There are some.
Okay.
But they're
I-
probably.
It depends on what
I'm
version.
looking for that. There's
Yeah.
an email
Do they
that-
daily hand over emails? I mean, do they daily bank them is all I can think of the word.
No.
Bank their emails?
Yeah, well, yes. Inspired Technologies maintains the mail server,
Okay.
and they're archived.
Okay.
daily.
Archive. Thank you. That
And
word.
they go back. They actually do the searches. When we ask for a public records request for emails,
Yeah.
if they're not personal email addresses, if they're WAKULLA County email addresses, they'll then ask Inspired Technologies to run the search, and they provide the search back, and then it gets converted from Outlook into original native email files into PDFs, where they do any checking for redaction. And it probably is quicker, I would think. I mean, there's an argument to be made that switching them to PDFs is quicker.
Okay.
Regardless, if we provide the original, if the customer requests that,
Okay.
we should be able to provide them without any gruff. That's all.
Okay.
And a case in point was when I asked for the Excel file. Okay, in the case that you made about the alteration, I requested the Excel file.
Yeah.
I'm actually on the committee. I'd like to look at this.
Right, sure.
I was told you can't have that. I'll print it out for you, and you can have a hard copy of it, but you can't have the Excel file. I said, excuse me, I most certainly can have the Excel file. Well, you could modify and alter it. I can modify a hard copy. I can add lines. I've got Photoshop. I can.
True.
Yeah, well,
it's possible to do all.
What's up with that? And then she said, well, I'm afraid you'll alter it and get it out there. Well, of course, Heather says, no, it's the original.
Right.
The original was Excel. Provide the Excel file, and it was sent. So things have gotten better. I mean, we have been moving along, but we just need to.
Could it be lack of knowledge that has caused this?
Too.
Well, some of it.
Well, I can tell you, if you had asked me that, I'd have been lack of knowledge.
That's some of it. I'm sure it's some of it.
Well, and then also, if there's been a tradition of like anybody in the county office being able to apply their individual discretion to fulfilling a public records request without a policy to follow, that's a problem. So if they're kind of like, oh, I don't like the way this guy looks, I'm going to deny his request. I mean, come on. Yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, that has gone on, and the policy, I mean, the question that should be asked, I mean, I guess you guys know I do a lot of this stuff. I mean, I do the request.
We can see on that list.
But the point being, you know, if you made a few, if you had a pothole you were trying to deal with, you would see some of the things that we're seeing. And if your interest then expanded, you would go to the First Amendment Foundation, or I use their advice, their legal advice, etc., and their advice on the statute. A lot, of course. I mean, so
this is a truly unique state. The state is very.
One guy, he's west of here, but he got, I don't know.
And one other
Oh,
thing
that guy's pretty famous.
I'll mention.
Are you talking about Jerry Cooley?
Jerry Cooley. But if we had some kind of also key person in this custodian position that could negotiate, that was fair and unbiased, that could negotiate with the requestor and say, hey, could you live with this? But right now it seems like there's a lot of a personality issue.
Right.
And it shouldn't be about personality. It'd be about policy and procedure, and you fulfill it regardless of the personality.
Well, it's not about you or about me. It's about us as a community.
Right.
Amen.
Reasonable expectations and reasonable requests.
Yeah.
And equal
Everybody has reasonable expectations.
You have homework for us?
Yeah, I have homework for you.
Okay.
List to come January 11th with a list of concerns you currently have about public records and how we do this, which some have come out, but let's list it. And then also an outline of policy ideas. So if you have solutions in mind or things you would like to see, let's get this out there on the table. But let's do it in writing so we have documents to work with.
That assumes two things. Some familiarity with the policy. So read policy and read the
yes, that's additional homework, which you've given us a part of our marching orders.
That's a great job.
No, it's great to have this, and I'm personally going to make sure that I get one of those books because I'll review that more. Because my experience with the Sunshine has been on government committees, working for the legislature, being more on the end of following it versus like dealing with people making requests of me. So
mine has been on private with land matters and things like that. And then some things at the state level.
The problem with the legislature, they're pretty much exempt.
Well, but
they've exempted themselves.
When I worked for the legislature, we had some rules. Things have changed since I worked there, but now I serve on boards and things like that are also subject to Sunshine. And so it's coming at it from a different angle.
If you've worked with the administration, generally, that's the thing that the governor in his email.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. No, I worked for a legislative committee back in the day in the House of Representatives.
But Cooley's deal is he's going to get it changed to make the legislature subject to the Sunshine Law.
It should be
as a constitutional amendment.
It could be more subject than it is. That is for sure.
The Sunshine Law went into effect in the 40s. Is that correct?
I don't know when.
46? 60s? I thought it was 46.
Well, it was extraordinarily progressive. It was almost. It wasn't almost. It was unheard of.
Yeah.
Who was the governor then?
Oh, man, Child maybe.
No.
Later.
Askew. I bet it was Askew. Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much.
Oh.